Thank you. My name's Bob. I'm an alcoholic. It almost worked. It almost worked. I guess if Caroline hadn't have been here to work. Phew, boy. I'm not nervous. I'm just tired. Take me a minute to kind of take this in. I've never done this. I've been up here before and chaired a meeting, and I've been up here and read some things, and I've never had to stay up here as long as I might have to stay up here. So right now I'll get over that. The first time I did anything at a meeting this large was over at Holiday Inn at Sunday morning meeting, and Bill, my sponsor, he was up front, and he asked me to come up and read how it works, and I went up and read it, and I said, my name's Bob, and I read it, and I got done, and he said, Bob, what are you? And I said, I'm nervous, Bill, and I forgot I was an alcoholic, too. That's happened before, too, can't see right in front of me because, I'm looking too hard. But one thing that I was thinking about when I was sitting up here, along with about a million other things, is about this lady right here that's doing this translation, and that's pretty special for me. Not that that I know anyone that's hearing impaired. I really don't personally, that's in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I just think that there's an opportunity there, and I think that's what this program's all about. At least that's been what it's all about for me since I've come here, and I'm real grateful to her for being here this morning, and I'd just like to give her a hand. Thank you. Thank God for the program is down on paper, and what I'm gonna do this morning is just tell in a general way what my life was like, what happened in my life, and what it's like today. And I usually do that backwards when I do it, but I find that it's easier if I do it the way that that it's suggested. A lot of things that way. I just want to say one thing, what it's like today. I'll go ahead and tell you what it's like today. It's rough, no? Thank God for sponsors, and for me, sponsorship is just, it's a real important part of this program for me. But back to me and not really doing things the way they're outlined. I've got a nice blister on my right hand right here, and I'll tell you a little bit about the way that since I've been to Alcoholics Anonymous, my life has been. I went down to 210 Tuesday night, and they had a little problem with a door down there, and what was going on with it, it wouldn't shut and open good. It was hanging up. And I do carpentry work, and I work with my hands, and I use tools and all that stuff. Well, anyway, I went down there, and I was real kind of excited when I was heading down there, because I really hadn't been spending much time down there. It's been an important part of my life being around that place. But anyway, I was asked to come down there and help out with something, and I took usually I don't like to drive the van that I keep my tools in, because I'm in it all day long. So I took that down there. I was real excited about, I'm going to get this door all squared away. And I got out, and Ralph met me there, and he said, Bob, you got a screwdriver? And I looked at the door, and I said, yeah, I got one in the van. And meanwhile, my sponsor's there too, and I had already called him and asked him what was going on with the door, and he just calmly told me that, it looked like it needed a little planing, and it was hanging up some. So anyway, I got all excited and went and got some screws about about that long, and well, I had some about that long, but it had to be one about that long, and I was really in the groove, so to speak. And anyway, I took 2 little screws out of the top hinge and started one of them in, and I got it about halfway in, and turning real hard. And my sponsor's standing right beside me. He's watching me turn it. Finally, I got it in. A couple guys were there. Go get it, Bob. I'm wailing on this long screw, and I'm pushing it off. Oh, it's not that bad. And so anyway, I got another one and put it in, and got ready to get down near the bottom and put one in, and Bill said, "Hey, Bob, you want to use a little soap on that screw?" And I don't think so. It's going in all right. Meanwhile, my hand's welting up and everything else, and he went and got a little soap and just brought it back and laid it down. He said, "Here's some soap," and laid it down, and I went ahead and took it and rubbed the screw on it, and boy, that last screw just went in so nice and easy. It really was. So this is great, and meanwhile, I'm getting a blister on my hand and all that. Well, to make a long story short, that's how I do a lot of things, and I'm one. Excuse me, I'm one of those people that a lot of times I have to live it and live it my way, before I really believe that there's a way that might be just a little bit better, not necessarily easier, because I don't know about the easier way these days. Marvin said something about all the old timers saying that, do they tell you this thing, gets easier? And I haven't really heard them say that. They said it gets better. Well, to me, easier is better, and I don't know, when those two things are going to work out. But anyhow, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, it was 7 years ago in August 1982. I'd been turning screws, and had big blisters on my hands, on my feet. And really, that's but if somebody would have even mentioned soap, I wouldn't even consider listening. I couldn't, I just, what had happened in my life was what I've heard so many people in AA talk about, that I had just gotten in a place where nothing was good. I couldn't find it. There was nothing good in my life when I came to AA. I had a lot of experience, of doing things and doing them wrong, and really the only thing that seemed to me that was an answer was that drinking's fine. This always helps me get through, or if things are good, it helps me get through. If things get bad, it helps me get through. This, that, the other. But probably what was going on in my life that I didn't know about when I got here was that alcohol wasn't the answer anymore, and it wasn't doing for me what it used to do, and man, that was frustrating. That was a bad deal, because it had been such a important part of my life up until maybe a couple of years before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and then it was just it wasn't like it was anything different in my life. It was my life then, I guess really, I did my drinking in the last couple of years was, most of it was just maintenance drinking, and I didn't know anything about this when I came to AA. It took me a while just to figure out I was at AA, and what these guys were doing, and ladies, what they were doing over here. But I had gotten to the point where everything that was going on in my life was right straight, was dead ahead in front of me. and I couldn't duck it. I couldn't back away from it. It seemed like, because I'd been doing that, as long as I could remember. I couldn't go around it. These are just the feelings that I had about the way my life was, and I had a great big old one of those nasty sandwiches I've heard people call them, my friend O.J., when I was going down to the meetings at 210 down there, and he was saying, I love the way how he said this. He said, we don't get to Alcoholics Anonymous because we see the light. We get here because we feel the heat. And that's what was going on with me. I thought, now, I'd been to some meetings, pretty early on where I thought this was a divine intervention and that was going on in my life. And this was it was a cosmic thing that was going on, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I felt like there were times where, I was the chosen one, in special instances and all that. That would have been okay if I'd have realized that this was a fellowship, and this was a lot of people that were sharing common problem, but I got here and I feel like today I didn't get here a day too early or a day too late. It just I got here when it was time. I really had about all I wanted at that time, as far as the drinking goes. I started off drinking when I was about 12 or 13, and I thought for a while, that's the way everybody did it. After I got here and heard some people talk, it must be something about 12 and 13, that does it. I know for me there were other things going on in my life besides drinking, or thinking about drinking when I was 13. One thing was that the girls started looking a little different to me, but that was something that I remember getting all tied up inside over. I still do today, but that's no big deal. Probably the feelings that I remember more that just seemed more prevalent to me about that time of my life was that I didn't really feel too good inside, but my whole deal was trying to make it look like everything was great, and I guess I've just learned that. I don't know where I learned it, but I did. It just like I had that whatever it is in me, that just came along that way. It doesn't really matter to me, but that's the way I was. I can remember, and I've heard this said, and for me, I can identify with it, that before I started drinking, I never really had a place inside myself that could make me feel good about myself. It was outside things that always made the inside feel okay. Things that I did, people, other people, places, and things. And I can recall that going on a long time before I knew what a drink would do. And it's strange because after I got to AA, and I finally was able to surrender to that part, to the drinking, I was right back where I was before I started drinking, just like I felt back when I was 12 and 13 years old. I thought I'd gone a long ways, I was 30 years old when I got here, so that's 17 years. And really, it, didn't go very far at all. And that was a little bit humiliating. But I can recall when my buddy John and I, a boy that lived across the street from me, I grew up down in Florida. And I thought for a while that's probably why I was an alcoholic, because I lived in Florida. And then I found out they had alcoholics in South Carolina and North Carolina and Virginia, and, everywhere. And those were some things that got in my way as far as being able to go along with getting some soap and putting it on the screw and turning the screwdriver. But I used to hang around with this boy John, and we had a lot of fun just doing things that it felt like they were, the things that young boys did. We carried on, and most of our carrying on was at night and after our folks were in bed, and even there was a little method about it. Was what I'd do is roll my bed up like I was asleep in it, and we'd get out. Usually we'd meet, 11 or 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and this was in the summertime, and I lived around a lot of lakes. In fact, I lived on a lake, and there were lakes all around. So we just used to go out and swim in the lakes and swim in swimming pools in people's yards that were asleep, and we took a boat one time. In fact, we took a 6-pack of beer one time, and that's my recollection of my first drink. But the way we did that was pretty calculated. We did it in the evening while the sun was still up, and we walked right in somebody's garage, and they had a refrigerator in there that had beer and wine in it, and we took a 6-pack of Schlitz beer on our way home, knowing that we were going to get back out that night and drink that beer, and that was pretty bold right there, I thought. He helped me a lot. Maybe I helped him too as far as getting up the courage to do it, but that was a pretty big deal as far as things going on in my life at that time. We took the beer and put it on a rope and put it in the lake. It was a spring-fed lake, and the reason for that was we took it out of a refrigerator and it was cold, so we put it in the water to keep it cold. And I didn't have to read a book to learn all those things, and I was pretty young then, so I feel like I was on my way pretty good there. But anyway, the deal was John and I were going to meet and get that beer and go out and do the same things we'd been doing before. And I lived on the lake, and he lived across the street, so I went out. I think we were going to meet at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got there a little bit early, and I pulled the thing in, and there were only 3 beers on the 6-pack cooler. And this, I don't mean this as a joke. I'm serious about what I'm getting ready to say, but I was 30 years old and in Alcoholics Anonymous, and before I realized that my buddy had gotten over there first and taken those 3 beers. I'd swim in that lake down near the springs, near the bottom, and there was some current down there, and I thought maybe the current had ripped 3 beers off that plastic 6-pack cooler. And so, that's how far drinking got me. Or I never had a whole lot going on before I started, I just, But anyway, that night was pretty special. For me it was, and I didn't know till I got to AA really what it was. It didn't mean anything to me, until after I'd been around here a while. But hey, I felt different that night. I was the reason I rolled my bed up was, I wasn't supposed to be out that time of night, so, and my dad was a military man, and we went on military time around the house. I remember getting up in the morning and writing out a schedule what I was supposed to do that day, and it had to be, the right time, and this, that, and the other. So, I learned that I had to do the right thing around there, or he'd come down on me pretty good. And so, anyway, my bed was rolled up because it wasn't supposed to be out, and I can remember the feeling drinking. I got 2 of those last 3 beers, but I can remember the feeling that all those things that had been hanging on me, about being out in the middle of the night, it was always exciting to get out and carry on like that, but for some reason that beer and what we were doing just, man, they went together like, peanut butter and jelly, and it felt just right. It really did. And we didn't do that every night after that, and I didn't drink every night, and I didn't steal beer every night, and the rest of it just kind of happened, and it took a long time for me to progress through a disease that I had no idea that I had, and really, if anybody ever mentioned it to me, I'd go along with a lot of other people having it, but they weren't people that were around places where other people were much. They were under bridges and all that. I went into high school and I got involved in sports, mainly football, and I did real well at that. It was something that helped fill my insides up, made me feel like a part of something, and I knew it was something I could do. That I worked. I felt the sensation of working hard at it and feeling some getting some good feelings back from it. So and that was really the way I did a lot of stuff. If things didn't feel good, I'd run from them just as far as I could. So pretty much got real involved in making me feel good. And the problem I had was when I felt good, I always wanted to feel better. So I never could find that spot where I was just all right. And that's been tough to find since I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. But there's days when I feel just all right. But drinking in high school was to me was just what everybody else did. I drank Southern Comfort, and it seemed like that did the job a little quicker than beer did. In fact, it did. But boy, it'd make you sick. Made me real sick. When I was around the same age, probably about the same age as when I first started drinking, there's something else happened in my life, and this was kind of different for me. When I came here and I heard about a disease, alcoholism, and what alcohol did to alcoholic that would continue to drink, I didn't really understand it a whole lot as much as I did, a little later on. But I understand this much about it. That when I was about the same age as when I started drinking, we used to hang around down at the playground, which was right down the street at elementary school. And there was an older guy down there named Ronnie, and he had a motor scooter, and he, to me, in my eyes, he was able to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do, mainly because we were younger and all. But one thing he did is he chewed tobacco, and it was beech nut cherry flavored tobacco. But we were down there one day. There was myself and John and some of the other guys around there, and Ronnie had some chewing tobacco, and we checking him out, and asked him what that was all about, and he said, "Here, man, here's some." And so he pulled some out of the bag, and we just, "What do you do with this?" He said, "Eat it," and I did, and I got very, very sick eating that tobacco. In fact, I lived this about 2 blocks from the school, and I felt it coming on, and the way it was coming on is if you take and push right here, how things kind of whiten up and all. And I started running home as hard as I could, and I could run pretty fast too. And I ran right straight in the house, ran in the bathroom, and man, it was a bad deal. And I got very sick from that chewing tobacco. Well, that was the very last time that I ate chewing tobacco in my whole life. But I got very, very sick drinking Southern Comfort, drinking alcohol. And I just keep on drinking it, there would be days, I'd let a few days get in between those times, but for some reason it wasn't, like the chewing tobacco. I finished high school, and that was just mainly, I just showed up. I mean, really, that's about all that was about. Like I say, I liked playing football, and I thought I had some opportunities to play football after high school, and I probably would have if I'd have taken care of the other part of school. And it's today, I realize today, the most important part is the scholastic part. I never studied. I got in trouble in a lot of different situations. I'd get caught in I could always get out of it because I played football, and I used that all the way through, through the rest of my high school days. That the coach would make me run or something like that, and I could do that, and that wasn't any real big deal to me. So there never really, I used those things, just that situation to get through a lot of stuff. Anyway, just right before it was the last semester of school. For some reason, I thought, well, maybe I'll see if I can get some good grades, and maybe I can go play some college football. And I really wanted to. And I started studying, and at that time in my life too, I knew some of my friends had started getting these little black pills that they were amphetamines, and I started eating those and started studying, and man, I never read so much in 12 years of school, And I was reading and reading and reading, and as quick as I'd read it, I'd forget it. It just, go right on by me. But I tried. I wanted to get 11 and a half years of school in one semester, is what I wanted to do. So what happened was we got near the end of school, the final exams, and I was in the hospital with IVs in both my arms. I'd just gotten dehydrated, and I was real sick. I was delirious. I couldn't hold my head straight. If I turned my head, it was like my eyeballs would just bounce around in my head. So, that I never had an easy time with any kind of drug that changed the way I feel, and that goes way back to in high school. Alcohol, for some reason, was the one that really I could, at that point in my life, at that time in my life, I felt more a part of everybody, and rather than a part. The other drugs they just made me feel a lot away from everything, and but I finished high school, and I spent about 2 years right there in Orlando, and I didn't drink much, and that's about all I did was I took other drugs besides alcohol, and those were real dark days in my life, real dark days. And the places I was in, the people I was with, just there was no light there. And I used to go to the beach a lot down there, and I used to love the sunshine. I used to love to be out in the water and all that. And those days were just, this wasn't a part of that in my life. Being a son of a military man and all, I used to go get my hair cut a lot, and had to walk out to the Air Force Base, and I learned how to work that deal. First I'd go real early and come right home, and if it wasn't cut right, I'd have to go back. So I'd wait until I knew they closed at 1 or 12, so anyway, I didn't like keeping my hair cut real short. For some reason it just never suited me, and my dad always wanted it that way, and there was a lot of tension there on that. So I moved out of the house after I got out of high school, and I didn't get a haircut for a long time. And that's all I was about for a long time. It seemed like was long hair, some things were going on at that time. It was the late 60s, and they were talking about a lot of peace and love and all that stuff up in New York at Woodstock, and there was one thing going on in my life that was scary to me, and there was a war, and I was scared about that, because I screwed around all through high school, and I went to a junior college, and I didn't do any different there than I did in high school. I just went to class, that was it. So I was getting to where I was going to be, taken out of that deal, and they were drafting people, and I'd even had a friend that was older than me that had been to Vietnam, and he lost his life over there, and they gave me a memorial award when I was a senior for outstanding character. It was through football, and it was in his name, and my life had changed so much from when I was a senior in high school till a couple of years after that. I wasn't the same person. I wasn't about the same things. So I had an older sister that had moved up here to Virginia to go to college, and I thought, well, I'm going to go up there and see what happens, and because my circle of friends had gotten real small down there, and I had friends that were getting in trouble, and I knew what was, I don't know if I really knew, but I felt the heat, and I say it that way. So I moved up here, and I enrolled in a junior college down in Petersburg, and I tried that deal, and, I just never had any direction at all. I was rolling, man, just, but I knew that there was a part of me inside that I knew that, I don't know, maybe it was like, I've heard that we all have a fundamental understanding of God, and see, I'd grown up in the church, up until I was old enough to tell my folks I didn't want to go, and they didn't bother me about it. And to me, the only thing that I knew about God was that he was a guy that took score, and we always played at his place, and I was always losing, and really, and it bothered me all the time. So I didn't have an understanding that I learned around Alcoholics Anonymous of God and love, So I moved up here, and I tried college, and I got my hair cut, and man, that was a big deal. Kept it in my closet, rolled up in a rubber band for a couple of years. And I don't know, just like there was a good feeling for a while, to be this new person, and things start happening and all. So the college thing didn't work out. I went to work in construction, and I don't know, at that time in my life, it was something that I could do that day, similar to what football had done with me in school, and I'd spend 8 hours there, and really could see what had happened at the end of the day, and I felt pretty good about it. So I gave the school up, and stayed with the construction, and ended up, I got my own business going, took on a partner in business, took on a partner at home, and got married, kept my hair cut, stayed away from a lot of things, drank, but I stayed away from a lot of the other stuff. That really wasn't a part of my life. And I guess, when I think about the invisible line, that's probably where I started hitting it, because I had done things, I had made changes in my life that I thought, for me, were going to make my life better. I thought I was becoming a responsible person, and that was my intention. Got married, we started a family, and it seemed like the drinking had gotten to where, as hard as I worked, and we worked real hard, that's how hard I drank. So those two things right there were working against each other. I remember the first job that we got, my partner and I got, was putting up some prefab homes, and we were out there at night. It was 10 or 11 o'clock. We hung floodlights up in a tree, and we were out there nailing a deck off. And as soon as we got off, we went and started drinking some of that Jack Daniels. And we drank that until, I don't know, at least until time to go to work again the next day. Yeah, I did go home, but and hey, we were right back out there the next morning, putting up the rest of that house. And we did that for it was about a year, I guess. If we had 3 houses come in a day, 3 houses were put up in a day, and those were all prefabs. They were panel homes. But we flat did some work, and made a lot of money. and didn't pay one single lick of taxes that year. And hey, we really didn't have time to, you know. And boy, I tell you, it's amazing to be able to even smile about that, because that was a rough deal. But what happened was they caught me, you know. Partnership folded up. First son was born, and there were some things starting to go on that were getting hard to run from. First son was born and had a hard time. He had some heart problems, and it was touch and go. And thank God, you know, I wasn't even told about that at the time. I don't know what would have happened then, but I know that I was drinking just as much as I could drink at night over the other things. And so, you know, things were changing again. I'd got my hair cut, and I quit using other drugs, and I was drinking. But I missed the tax man. And when I say not paying taxes, this is the deal. It was real stupid too. If you work for me and I gave you a check on Friday, I withheld your taxes, and then I spent that money. And they don't like that a bit down at IRS. They call that a trust fund. So we ended up with our own personal collector, IRS agent, Mr. D. He might be in the program now. But I do remember this. That man we lived down in Chester. He's sitting at my kitchen table on a Friday one day, and he told me something. He said, you know, Mr. Olive, if you watch your pennies, your dollars will take care of themselves. And that was a lot. Those were big words, you know. And I look back on that today, and hey, that man, what he said really, through the middle of all that anger I had, you know, about this guy coming to get money that wasn't even his, you know, it was real. It's amazing that, you know, today I can even see that. I might run into that man one day, and if I do, I might shake his hand and thank him a little bit. Not for the way he made me feel at that time, but you know, he was right on time. Somehow, and just, you know, the cunning, baffling, and powerful paid off a lot of that money, got in some other debts, built a house, designed a house, went to a bank, borrowed money to build a house, and moved into it. And life was getting pretty simple by then. I was drinking just as much as I could then. Becky had gone to work at night, working at the bank, and part-time. And the whole deal in my life then was get home from work. I'd come home from work some nights and go in the bathroom, and I'd sit there for 45 minutes. I'd leave the beer in the van. She'd have to leave for work about 6:30. 3 kids. We're eating rice and hot dogs in his brand new home. Nice house too. Working right across the street and downhill from where I live too. The reason I know that is I never even turned the key on the van. I just put it in neutral and coast. And I'd be late for work, and some days I wouldn't go at all. But you know, that's really where I was at when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the way my life was. I wanted all those things to be different, you know. And really what had happened was, I guess I'd exhausted everything that I knew for things to be better. I didn't understand when I came here what was going on. And I'm glad today that I didn't. Everything that I understand now, sometimes I have more trouble with that than anything else, you know. It's really my attempts at believing in things. It's the faith, you know, that's really the difference in my life. Things that I'm real sure about, you know, I get so damn sure about them that they end up just, you know, consuming my life. When I let them, they just run right through me, you know. And but I'm grateful for this program for just being able to not drink and to go to these meetings, and to have a little bit of faith that this is the right thing, this is the deal, this is where it is right here for me, and it really is. This past year has been probably something that in my life that I've never seen, and I'm grateful today that it's come around like it has. I had a real good friend of mine get real sick, and it kind of, you know, I got a real bad feeling inside when that happened, and for all of a sudden I was in those dark days again, and I came around here and people were saying, you know, this deal's gonna be all right, you know. I went down to 210 and they said, you know, this deal's gonna be all right. And somebody called me and said that you might need to get on over there and see him, that they just giving him half a chance of living. And my feeling inside was that's only half a chance of living. And by the time, you know, that thing was getting squared away and all, it was a 50-50 chance of living, you know, and not the other deal. And I don't know, I just believed, you know, that things are going to work out. And man, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of days since I've been able to quit drinking that I wasn't too sure if I was going to be sober all day long. And thank God for one day at a time, and for this program, and I thank God for the grace of God. And that, man, that to me, that is just, it says it all. It really does. It's only the grace that I'm sober today. I don't want to drink today, and I thank God for that. Because everything that was going on and worse would be going on probably real soon after I picked up a drink. And so many good things. I've seen so many good things since I've come in this program. You know, things that I didn't believe in, and you know, I'm one of those people. If you show me, I'll believe it. And now it's one of those deals where if I believe it, I'm shown. And I saw some things happen this year that just really have really, they're miracles. And I never have been a person to really think a whole lot about, you know, those kind of things, you know. But the best thing Alcoholics Anonymous is it's ever come through in my life, and I really thank God for everybody in this room and every room that we go to, you know. If I was only one drink, and I'm still only one drink away from missing this whole deal, you know. All I had to do was take one more drink and I'd never got here. And that's, you know, that's a pretty big deal thing right there. That tells me that it's just a little bit more than me knowing all the answers, and you know, and me knowing what's right. There's a big power that I'm just a small part of, and I've seen it through this program, and I'm able to even go outside and use a little bit of it away from Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and even that's amazing to me. I'm close to my family, you know, and I love my family. I love my parents. I love my father. The man used to make me keep my hair cut. He used to hate him, you know. He's a neat guy. He's a beautiful person. I love him, you know. I used to pray for him to die. I did. He just, you know, but it's amazing. Just so anyway, I started backwards and I ended up backwards. So, and I still got a blister on my right finger and right hand. But you know, I really love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thank everybody for being in Alcoholics Anonymous. Thanks a lot.